This is from Newsweek. Came out the other day. Secret Commandos with shoot to kill authority were at the Capitol. On Sunday, January 3rd, the heads of a dozen elite government special operations team met in Quantico, Virginia, to go over potential threats, contingencies, and plans for the upcoming joint session of Congress. The meeting and the subsequent deployment of these shadowy commandos on January 6th has never before been revealed. Right after the new year, Jeffrey Rosen, the acting attorney general on January 6th, approved implementation of long-standing contingency plans dealing with the most extreme possibilities: an attack on Donald Trump or Vice President Mike Pence, a terror attack involving a weapon of mass destruction, and a declaration of measures to implement continuity of government requiring protection and movement of presidential successors. Rosen made a unilateral decision to take the preparatory steps to deploy the Justice Department's so-called national forces. There was no formal request from the U.S. Capitol Police, the Secret Service, or the Metropolitan Police Department. In fact, no external request from any agency. The leadership in justice and the FBI anticipated the worst and decided to act independently, the special operations forces lurking behind the scenes. So here's the question I have with this story. If they knew all of this, if they had the foresight to say there was a very serious threat, where was the National Guard? Where were the Capitol Police? Why weren't they sharing intelligence? Why weren't they doing anything to prevent the so-called insurrection?
It's almost like they wanted it to happen.
So I can explain to everybody a couple of things here if you want. So there was that bit. So right before we started, there was a question of, because I think, Tim, you had seen on the Daily Mail, the way they categorized this.
I think it was Daily Mail.
It may have been Daily Mail, that Trump had deployed these teams, right? Which changes things. But if you read through what it states is that Trump had approved the authority for these teams. But
interesting.
Trump approved the authority for these teams back during the summer of 2020. And he had put the order in because, remember, the riots were going on late May, early June 2020. Horrific. The city of D.C. was on fire.
Hold on. Trump authorized commandos with shoot to kill authority because of the George Floyd riots?
So yes and no. Well, yes, right. It's not like
dude.
he specifically said that, but this is what we would call this is the NCR CONOP. So the NCR CONOP, and if Tom Sauer were here, he would know exactly what I'm talking about. That essentially means if there is a threat to the national capital region, that's kind of like all bets are off. Like, this is the head of the government, right? So if there is a threat to the national capital region, that stuff's just in place. You just press the button and boom, all this stuff gets spun up, and it gets spun up real fast. And so I believe, and I knew, and I reported some of this back when it happened, but there were reports that the 82nd Airborne was flying airborne. Remember those helicopters that you saw over DC during the summer of 2020? So let me just put it this way. If the 82nd is up in the air, who do you think is on those birds, right? Who do you think is operating on the ground if you can see the 82nd up in the air, right? It's just one of those like common sense kind of things. Like, just think about this. That's tier one response, because if the head of government goes down, right, who else is left? Like, you need to defend the Capitol. And so they do not play any jokes with, they do not mess around with that stuff. And so we already knew that Barr during the summer of 2020 had taken the step to deputize all federal law enforcement agencies. Remember this was reported. I know you've talked about it.
Are you talking about in Oregon?
Throughout the entire country, all three-letter agencies that were 1811. So if you have an 1811, that means you're a special agent. So if you're Customs and Border Patrol under DHS, if you're Secret Service, if you're even IRS, right, has 1811s. That's your special agent, federal law enforcement. That means I'm federal agent, right? Federal agent, right? That's 1811. So an 1811, however, is not normally tasked with, or your Bureau of Prisons, for example, they have 1811s. You're not usually tasked with defending the Capitol. Barr put forward this is the same reason why BORTAC, which is the special ops unit for the border, went up to Oregon.
That's right.
So Barr had put out this blanket order. So a bunch of these blanket orders were signed during that period. This is one of them. However, I don't think Trump ever considered that it would be used at the Capitol during this.
Interesting.
However, because the authority was already signed, Rosen looked at it and said, yeah, sure, send them to the Capitol.
They didn't do anything, though.
So we know.
Oh, I see.
Well, so what I think the reason why is this coming out in Newsweek now? Why, when there's been so many questions about January 6th, when this has been front page news, even though, by the way, the ratings on anything related to January 6th, they're in the dumpster, right? Nobody in like the rest of the country is really caring that much about this. And the opinion polls bear this out. that you have one narrow band of people that like really, really care about it, and they all watch Rachel Maddow and Joy Reid, and a lot of them are in the White House currently, like Ron Klain. But other than that, people have kind of moved on. They care about inflation, they care about the gas prices, etc. But suddenly you've got people like Darren Beatty, like myself, who have been out there talking about, Tucker Carlson had this huge documentary about what was going on with federal agents in terms of this. We're 1 year away from it. We know that the January 6th committee has been continuing. They're going after Hannity now. They're going after other people.
Hannity.
They knew they are. They've just requested his, they've requested his assistance. And then if he doesn't comply, that'll be next step.
Did they request documents from you?
I have not had any communication from January 6th committee. And then, where was I on that? Okay, so they know that something is going to come out regarding this. And remember, they all called Tucker Carlson crazy. They said tinfoil, hair on fire, for suggesting that federal agents from these agencies may have been involved on January 6th or involved with any of these militias or anything like that. And now suddenly we get these people coming out on their own to say, well, okay, we did have special operations commandos, but they were only there to protect. They were only there to do this. And we guarantee they weren't doing anything else.
So you think that some of these guys were involved with effectively planning or pushing people towards things like that? Well, I don't want to say that guy's name necessarily, but there's a guy who everyone's accusing of being a Fed.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it would be that far, but I would guarantee you that at some level, if these guys were doing their jobs, they would be running operations. They would be dressing up plain clothes. They would be going into the crowd. They would be saying, "Hey, what are you guys doing after? What are you doing after the thing? You going up to the Capitol? Maybe?"
I think the narrative's already.
I think that's all going to come out.
Well, the idea that the DOJ had enough foresight to prepare to have special operations on the ground suggests that for some reason they did not have standard law enforcement, police or National Guard, that they were so worried about a terror attack that they get a handful of these commandos. Why not go talk to the police and say, "Hey, look, we think this is a serious threat, so why don't you beef up security?"
Which, by the way,
in that video where the guy says,
"Tim, you're don't bury the lead." There was a terror attack. There were pipe bombs that were planted on January 5th, the night before, at the RNC and the DNC. I'm like, I get that you want to go after like rolling up, MAGA meemaws and everything in Alaska, but I'm a little bit more worried about who was planting the pipe bombs, at the heads of our national committees for both parties.
The intelligence agencies definitely lost the Vegas shooter that thing.
Stephen Paddock, the guy
that's definitely one way of expressing it. Because
largest mass shooting in U.S. history, and yet we don't even know anything about his motive.
And then the fact that we had this incident, all over Washington D.C., which is a surveillance grid, has surveillance cameras everywhere. You had someone leaving pipe bombs, and they still haven't caught the person that
next to the
did
Capitol.
That.
And if people don't know
where
those are located,
I believe
they're
the
within
RNC
walking
or
distance.
DNC as well. There's a number of pipe bombs that day, and this, of course, leads to a lot of speculation, a lot of conspiracy theories that there was a plan B if something didn't work out, that they would use this as a staging.
You've seen the Blue Anon thing on this, right?
Yep.
Who they claim who it is?
No, I didn't see that.
You haven't seen this?
Who did they claim was that?
There is a Blue Anon thing out there where they claim that the pipe bomb, because of there's like some reason that they say from the video. I don't know if it's the sneakers or the walk or something. Blue Anon actually claims that the pipe bomber was Marjorie Taylor Greene. I kid you not.
Wow.
You can go look it up. They actually have, I don't know if there's articles, but you can find it on like TikTok and stuff, where they say, that we think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they have these whole theories and where was she the night before, etc. They're making fake tweets about it.
Yep. No joke. Daily Dot fake tweet attempts to link Marjorie Taylor Greene to Capitol.
Yeah, and Daily Dot is like as far left crazy as you can go.
I'm kind of with you here, Jack. I think the federal government is more implicated here than we even know about.
Wait, look at this. Same gait, same left arm swing, same dropped left shoulder.
That is
Shoes
crazy.
Look the same.
Turns out it was a human.
Wait, guys. Dark pants.
Whoa.
Dark
Naturally.
pants were both worn by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That's a shadow.
And the pipe bomber casts a shadow. suitcase.
Oh, she
a
has one of those?
roller suitcase.
She has a roller bag too.
She
the
also
only one?
has a roller bag.
Nobody
Yes.
has a roller
No,
bag.
nobody has
Not a
roller
single
bags.
person.
Yeah.
That
They stopped
proves
using
it.
those in the 90s.
I mean, that's fair.
Now everyone's got skateboards. They carry all their stuff in individually wrapped plastic bags.
I'm going to have to be skeptical on this one. I've been watching a lot of information on the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and that I've heard that the American government knew there was going to be an attack. They didn't know where, so they were they just let it happen because they needed to incite the people to get angry and go to war. And when I see these like waiting, letting it happen, they knew it was they were there just in case, but they kind of let something happen. It looks like they obviously didn't stop it.
I can't.
Well, that's the whole thing about like Admiral Layton, who was the N2 or the J2 for PACOM at the time, who was the intel director out there before he was Admiral. I think he was Commander Layton. My Navy buddies are going to be mad at me for that one. He had predicted that it would come to Pearl Harbor, but nobody listened to him.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways people address that. They say either we had reason to believe, it was ignored, we had intelligence, it was ignored, or they outright knew it was about to happen and said, stand down, we need it.
Well, it's not that we didn't miss that the entire Japanese fleet left Tokyo. It was the idea is, are they going to hit the Philippines, are they going to hit Hong Kong, or are they going to hit Hawaii? And what people don't realize is that they actually hit all three at the same time.
But I will say this, because I can't speak to that stuff. I will say the history people think they know, man, if you had any idea. And the example I often give is...
If the news are fake, imagine history.
Take a look at Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street, the story of what went on in Occupy Wall Street is predominantly told by those who favored Occupy Wall Street. The people who opposed it weren't in the park. So there were very few people who are going to give you an honest assessment of what actually happened there. And even the people who might be there as actual journalists couldn't see the entirety of the picture. Not even I could, not even Luke could. We were down there. But I'll tell you this, the stuff I see they write about Occupy and what was going on, I'm like, man, they just lie about everything to make it seem good. What's going to happen is it's going to be 20, 30 years, and they're going to be like, we're going to read this book on what happened during Occupy Wall Street, and it's going to be all fluff, all of the bad stuff stripped out, and I'm sure the same is true for American history and for the Revolution.
The Spanish Civil War
Spanish Civil War. There's probably a whole bunch of really crazy, gruesome, awful stuff the Americans did during the War for Independence that just doesn't get told about.
Yeah, dude, the Native American genocide.
Oh, dude.
The conquest.
Well, I mean, it's conquest. You look at the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson, which is a fantastic movie, and they talk about the you know, what did he call it? I don't know, the wilderness campaign, the really brutal stuff that this guy did. There's probably stuff you're never going to hear because the people who won were probably like, don't tell them what we had to do to win. Give them a good victory story.
It's actually why I like the movie Fury. If you've seen that one. Oh, really? You haven't seen that? So this is a movie. Any of you guys seen that?
No.
So Brad Pitt, I think Shia LaBeouf was in it, and a couple other people. And it just it's the story of like one tank unit in Europe, and it's just it's the mud and the grit and the dirt, and like some kid comes up with an RPG and they've got to shoot the kid, right? Or else he's going to blow up the tank and kill everybody. And it's dirty and it's nasty. And there's this one part where Brad Pitt and they have the German, right? And so Shia LaBeouf has just joined the unit, is kind of the plot of it. And they've got this Nazi that they've captured, and they're like, and Brad Pitt's like, we ain't got no room for prisoners here. What they say, this ain't a prisoner unit. And he's like, he's got a job. His job is killing you. You got a job. Your job is killing him. Are you going to do your job? Or are you going to let him do his job? And it's just like all these various scenes like that culminating, the first thing he has to do is wash his buddy's like face and guts out of the tank because he's taken that seat.
Yeah, I've seen that movie. It was very...
Oh, you have
very,
to. Yeah.
Now it reminded me exactly of who you were talking about.
Like,
but
this is what
99%
of warfare was like.
Yeah, and there's also the bombing of Dresden, which goes unaddressed and not talked about. What FDR knew about the camps. There's so much history that, again, we just aren't privy to, and so much of it has been covered up and censored.
Who infiltrated Auschwitz twice, was writing reports from in the early 40s back to, so Polish underground intelligence officer infiltrates Auschwitz, sets up literally a radio relay from inside the camp to get it out to the Polish underground. They send the reports back to the British. The British put it on a shelf.
Yep.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. all of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about. So you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.